Hello everyone, Jordan here, welcome back to a new video. Today we're looking at the Acgam standing desk base from geekbuying.com. Now this is just the legs keeping costs down as well as allowing you to pick up your own tabletop. Before we get into the assembly, let's cover some of the key features. This frame is a single motor 2-stage design that's available in 3 colours, black, grey and white. It's got a built-in gyro for a precise height adjustment, safety protection where the desk will stop moving if it detects any obstacles, tabletop support from 120 to 180mm wide with 60 to 80cm of depth, and it's simple to assemble thanks to its embedded screw structure. So let's get on to the assembly, and if you want to skip this part then you can change using the YouTube chapter selection. So we've got a range of different bits and bobs, a little wrench, some screws, some different bolts with a Allen key end, lots of rubber kind of grommets and some Allen keys. I'm actually going to use a drill just because it's quicker, but they do include the wrenches if you're going to use those. So first part is screwing the bases onto the actual motors. Okay, so being as I'm doing this on my own, I've slid in one side and I'm going to screw this in and then screw the other side in. I think that's the best way to do it for one person. Okay, so we've got one side done, and then we can move this along and then do the same for the other side. That's your kind of basic frame. Obviously, depending on the size of your desk, you're going to have to slide this out before you screw it in. But we'll get to that in a minute. So now we're on to the motor, and as we've only got one on this model, we're going to use this rod, which will basically bridge the gap between the left and the right side. So then we can drive both sides at the same time with the same kind of torque. So it goes up evenly. Just a case of finding the right place. There's quite a bit of grease on there. So I'm going to get a bit of kitchen towel, just so I can get enough grip on that rod to get it in. There you go. Ta-da! So make sure it's in nice and tight. You don't want it coming out. That's what she said. And on to the next step. Now, as a side note, there is a little hex screw on here that is what you're supposed to use to actually adjust the size of this. I didn't find that I needed to use that. It just kind of slid out anyway. But before you kind of select your final desk size, if you don't have it to hand on what you're going to use, or you haven't got the tabletop yet, just make sure that you undo that and then tighten that up when you've got your right length. Okay, so now onto the bits that we're going to screw our actual tabletop into. Over here, it's a very similar process to what we did before, so just a case of sliding it on and then sliding it in. Nice and easy. It's been very intuitive so far. There's not been any difficult bits, and then just repeat that for the other side. Then we're pretty much close to being done. Okay, so onto the desktop. Now I'm using a Lin one from IKEA. It's literally one I had as a spare, but it just conveniently worked out that I was sent this desk to review, so I'm using this one. It is scratched on the other side before anyone points it out, but I'm going to be putting a mouse pad on the top, so it doesn't matter anyway. So this is like the cheapest one they do. I bought it just to be a disposable table if it got scratched. So yeah, it's one of the ones that's kind of filled in the middle, but by what I've read, it's not going to matter. Now this tabletop, as you can see, has got the screw holes pre-drilled for the IKEA legs. However, I'm not about that life, so I'm going to just install the standing desk into it. I think it's the 120mm, this one. Just for reference, if anyone's curious. I don't want a desk that's too big, as it's going to be kind of a secondary rig for any, like, I don't know, bench testing or stuff like that. So it's not going to be that important for size. So yeah. Now this part is a definite 2-man job. But as I said earlier, I'm one man, so be careful if you do this on your own. That's all I can say. So as you can see, that kind of fits on. What I will do is pull this. I don't want it right to the edge, I want a little bit of overhang. And then I'm just going to make some pilot drills with a drill bit that was included in my drill box. And that's going to do. But I would follow the instructions for your own desk that you're going to use. And read the instructions rather than just kind of winging it. But for now, this is what I'm doing. Because as I said, it's a secondary desk. I am fully aware that this isn't the right drill bit, don't at me. Okay, so as I said, I'm using the cheapest IKEA desk that they do. As a side note, this isn't the best thing to drill in the middle. So if you're using the cheap top with it, then expect for it to go as you put a pilot hole through. Okay, so I'm now ready to screw the actual desk in, but I'm going to lock in the desk size first in the middle here. Make sure it stays nice and tight. The loose screws that are in the box for this middle section. And I am going to do up the rod here as well, as I've now got my desk size set. A little self tapper, there we go. Change the drill bit and we're ready for a screw in, and voila. So all the screws in, there's actually 4 left over, which is nice. Okay, so on to the final stages. The box came with a 2-pin, which isn't right for the UK, but it's a simple figure 8 cable, which I will just replace. I've got some lined about. So then this will go into this little control box, like so, and then a little latch will come down to hold that in place. This will convert the DC to a kind of multi-function, so we're going to have the actual motor drive will plug into there. It's kind of like a 6-pin for a PC. And then we've got an Ethernet plug here, which will go to our control panel. So I shall find some nice places to mount this. I'll probably put the control box there. Doesn't seem to be putting any stress on the cable. Bit of slack there. And then this I'll probably double side tape underneath as well. You do actually have some sticky cable management things included as well, which is quite nice. This will be good for kind of when you're finished more than anything, I think. But we've got the mounting screws to actually put this control panel on, which are just here. So we'll do this now. Now, quick side note, all of these rubber parts, I'm going to guess were to go kind of between either the desk here or maybe on here. But the last standing desk I assembled didn't use anything regarding washers, so I don't really think I need them. So, you remember those 4 screws I said earlier that were spare? Yeah, they're not spare. You do get 2 in the pack though. There's a little multi-pack here that's got spares a little bit, including the actual M6 for the long bar, which is good. So it's not so much of a worry because we've got 2 over anyway. But you're more than likely to use the same screws if you change the countertop anyway, tabletop. So I'm going to now screw the remote in. I'm going to do this over here, just because there's quite a lot of cable. Find a nice place for it. And we'll make a pilot hole again, screw this bit in, and we shall be done. Now the good thing about this is you can see the holes in it, which is great because if it's not quite straight, you can just unscrew it and then slightly adjust the angle and then tighten it down again. So you can get it nice and flush to the desk. Boom. So now just clip this into the Ethernet jack, flip her over, plug her in, and we shall have a look at how it operates. Okay, so we'll just do this peel. Not quite as satisfying as I would have liked, but there we go. I will get that bit out, don't worry. Okay, so in the instructions, it now says to press and hold the down button for 3 seconds to reset. So we should do that. There you go, so it's worked out where it's at, 70 inches. Now we can now operate. So after a little while the screen does go off and it goes into standby, which is quite nice. And then to make a preset, what we need to do is literally go to the height you want. So for example, we'll use 105 and then we'll press S and then we'll choose a desired one. So let's just use number 1. So if we take that down just a little bit as an example, and then we can press number 1. And that will go to that pre-configured height. Very nice. So minimum is 70 centimeters, and let's go for a maximum test. So 115 is the maximum, and for me, who's 6'6", tall boy, that's perfectly adequate for me, which at my height is saying something. There are other standing desks that go a lot higher. Another one I looked at previously does go higher than that. Unless you're literally 7 foot tall, then that's perfectly enough. So my solution to mounting the power pack on the bottom was to use sticky pads and then zip ties to zip together. It wasn't the best solution, but it works. So I've put a load of heavy items on the desk to simulate weight of it loaded up with, for example, a PC monitor and some speakers. Now it does wobble a bit, but I'll talk about that more in the conclusion. So for those of you that want to hear how this sounds, then this bit's for you. Bear in mind it's 45 decibels and it's a little bit quieter on the video to in real life. Generally speaking, this desk is a bit louder than other standing desks, but you do have to consider this is using a central bar running between the single motor, unlike other dual motor designs, so it's understandable. The construction is great and absolutely solid. As I was assembling the desk, I was very impressed with how well built, thick and heavy each part was. The assembly itself was really simple too. It took about 30 to 40 minutes in total, but bear in mind I was filming it all and I've cut out a lot of this video. The company claims you can assemble it in 10 minutes. That does seem a little bit far-fetched. I'd say more like 20. I think 10 minutes would account for setting up the basic frame and excluding the desk and control panel holes, screwing it all in and sorting out the power. On the topic of the control panel, it's simple to use and works well. Having presets is great, and the fact movement will stop if an obstacle is detected is really good for peace of mind, especially as the desk will move with a single press of a preset button rather than the need to hold it down. It does wobble at full height, but it did have a lot of weight on the top. And the other thing you need to remember is that if you're using a smaller desktop, you're more likely to have your PC case off of the desk, so wobble won't be as much of a concern. That's something that's going to be more applicable to longer tabletops. In my quote-unquote simulation tests, typing and mouse movement like I would usually do didn't rock the desk anywhere near the point of it being annoying, so I definitely feel that standing and working would be no problem at all. Some other points to mention: the instructions were really quite difficult to follow. They do need a few more steps, or just to be a bit more in depth. There's a lot missed out, such as those rubber pads that didn't show where they go, for example. And there's just a few more instructions that could have some added clarity. It does need a way to mount the power adapter. Even on the YouTube videos of this desk, it does just hang, and I think that would be nice to just tuck it underneath somewhere. It will just make the look of it a bit more clean. Overall, I do think it's a pretty good desk, considering that it's a more affordable price point than most of the others on the market. Yes, you do need to buy your own desktop, but that in turn does give you more flexibility to choose whatever you fancy. A lot of people nowadays are going for kitchen worktops, so that's something you could always consider. If you've got any more questions about this, then do leave them in the comments box below, because I didn't want to make this video too long, but I know there may be some questions that still remain, so drop those down there if you've got any more. I will put the link for this in the description box below if you fancy picking one up. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell so you don't miss an upload. Thank you to geekbuying.com for sending this out for me to review. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.